Hi, this is Jake from Tier 3 Tactical. Today we're talking about my 7-month beginner to intermediate functional fitness program series. This is a series of programs that I put together because I'm commonly asked which order I should do the programs in by various athletes. This is designed for people that are not brand new to fitness. They've been in the gym before. They have some experience with the lifts, and ideally they would have safe technique on the major lifts. So it's designed to take someone who's trying to get into functional fitness from a beginner level through to intermediate, which means that they've gotten pretty strong, they've increased some muscle mass, and they've definitely increased their overall work capacity. Ideally, if you are brand new to fitness, I would recommend going to a reputable gym or finding a reputable trainer. Another good option is finding someone who has been doing this style of training for a while. And option 3, if you don't have any of those other two better options, is to, you can learn this stuff from YouTube. I did it back in 2008, so it is possible, but it's probably the longest way to learn this. And without further ado, let's get into the first program. All right, the first portion of this 7-month programming series is the 5-week functional fitness program for beginners. All the links and all the information for all of these, including the PDF downloads, are going to be in the link, and there'll be a link in the description below. So definitely click on that so you can get all the information you need and the full programs and everything. And it goes without saying that these programs are all free. But the 5-week beginner program, this program is, as you can see on the screen, is 3 days per week. There's a warm-up, which is just getting your body literally warm, and then there's kind of a more specific warm-up that gets the same muscle groups you're going to use in the WOD ready to go. And then there's the WOD, which is the workout of the day. These workouts are generally 8 to 15-ish minutes, and they comprise all kinds of muscle groups and movements. They're not super complicated. I'll try to keep them a little bit simpler for folks that aren't maybe used to this kind of style. But there probably is going to be some scaling for people that may not have all of the movements. And check out the link in the article for that specific program because there's a good resource for scaling. And lastly, you end up with a 5-minute walk or easy cycle cool down. That's very easy cycle, nothing hard there. Our next program is the 6 weeks of muscular growth for functional fitness athletes. This is part 1. It's a 2-part series. The first part, you can see this is a little bit more lifting heavy than the beginner program. And I have run portions of this program in my home gym. It works out very well. And it takes about an hour or maybe a little bit more per session. But let's look at an example here. On Monday, this is week 2, just as an example week, you've got a bench press, 4x10 AHAP, which is as heavy as possible, followed by a dumbbell row, same rep scheme and also AHAP. And then you're going to take a little break and go into that WOD of push-ups, deadlifts, and sit-ups. And that's the same kind of template you can expect for that program. There'll be about 2 compound lifts, a little break, and then you're going to have the WOD. And I also recommend a 5 to 10 minute easy walk or cool down after all my workouts. Research has shown that helps you build muscle mass, and it definitely helps you feel better after that. You don't feel quite as beat up. You feel a little bit more relaxed after the gym there. So definitely recommend you continue doing that. Moving down, talking about part 2 of this program, it's the same kind of template. So you see 2 lifts and a WOD, but we've changed the volume, we've changed the rep scheme. So we moved from higher volume, which is generally more beneficial for building muscle mass, into a little bit lower volume but heavier weight, which is a little bit more beneficial for building strength. And I like to do a lot of my programs that way, where we get some experience, we get a lot of reps in at higher volume, and then we gradually taper down to heavier weight. I found that works well for myself personally, and also my athletes. And I should say there is a premium version of this program that's the full 12 weeks, and I have definitely changed some of the lifting parameters that I didn't quite like in the original version. That's free. And changed a few of the other WODs that didn't really pair that well. So there's definitely some improvements in there, and there's a lot more detail on day-to-day piece by piece on what exactly you should go for, what percentages you should shoot for, etc. So if you like all that detail, check out the premium program, and I'll link that below as well in the description. All right, let's move on to the last part of this 7-month series. This is the 5-week strength and conditioning program for intermediate athletes. This is also part 1. There's going to be part 2 as well. And you might kind of think, I did the beginner one first. Why don't I move immediately into the intermediate one? Well, the intermediate one is a little bit more difficult. If you take just a quick glance, you'll see that there's a lot more lifting. This is more geared towards athletes in their off-season team sports athletes. Rugby, football, hockey, soccer, things like that. People that really need to build some strength and muscle mass, but also have a cardiovascular component, so they can't just lift. So that's why I put it last. It's actually a more challenging program than the muscular endurance program we just spoke about. So let's look at an example week here. We'll look at Tuesday. We start off with a back squat, and this is all very specific. We've got percentage based. So when you see those percentages, let's say 80% of your heaviest 1 rep max back squat. If you don't know that, you can always pick a weight that's above 80% and do it for max reps and put that into any calculator online. Just Google rep max calculator and it'll tell you what your 1 rep max is, and you can use that number to figure out your percentages. But after that squat, you're going to see stiff leg deadlift, and you'll see a note that says leave 1 rep in the tank. Pay attention to that. I don't want you to go max effort on every single set. You're going to overtrain if you do that. And then next you're going to see a reverse lunge, which is standing in place and lunging in reverse with a barbell. That's one of my favorite exercises. Very good exercise there. And then the WOD will be after a little bit, 5-minute break or so, and it's death by deadlift, which is 1 rep at the specified weight on the first minute, 2 on the second minute, 3 on the third, etc., until you can't make the required amount of reps in that minute. This is a very hard program, especially that first week. When I wrote it, I tested this, and my back was screaming at me. I was questioning some of my life choices there. Moving on to part 2, same kind of, same template, just higher volume. I've made a few smaller changes on exactly how I want you to do certain things, so make sure you read it carefully. But the weights are going up on the compound moves, and then the volume work. The volume is going up on the accessory work, so pay attention there. The last thing we're going to talk about is the rest of the equation for getting into better shape, and that's nutrition and recovery. You'll see people online talking about eat whatever you want, this special pill, and just one exercise or piece of equipment. That's all crap. You should know better than that. You don't have to eat like a monk to get in great shape, but you do have to eat reasonably. And if you're not super knowledgeable about the actual fundamentals of fitness, if you've got most of your information from infomercials and Facebook, I wouldn't recommend going off of that necessarily. Check out the link to the article for this full 7-month series. I've got my ultimate nutrition guide in there for functional fitness, where it talks about things like carbs, calories, what micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals actually matter, and it's very simple. It's not scientific. So that's a good base. I would bet even if you're fairly experienced, you probably will learn something there. And the most important thing I've included in that nutrition section is the Functional Fitness Nutrition Calculator. This is a tool I've built up over several years for my athletes. It does things like calculate your weight loss, calculate your rate of weight loss you should shoot for, because too much or too little is bad. Body fat. It'll also give you the amount of calories you spend on a functional fitness session, lifting and WOD, and it will give you macros and calorie recommendations, as well as a good method to track those. So definitely check that out. That's a good tool I use personally, and then I've used with many athletes. So it's all free on there. And then the last thing is recovery. Recovery is way overcomplicated by most athletes and coaches. There aren't special ways to recover, and getting massages and cryotherapy and all this kind of nice stuff that people do, and cupping and all this, it's more mental than anything. You probably feel better afterwards, and that may help your recovery. But when researchers actually look at the difference between having massage and not, there's no difference in your muscle. There's no difference in actual ability to recover or muscle mass or anything like that. So if it feels good, okay. you can do it. But there's only really about 2 things that have helped. One is that easy cycling or walking afterwards, because that helps clear out waste products from your muscles. And then also, surprisingly enough, wearing exercise tights, top or bottom, seems to help. You can wear them afterwards, after your workout, or during, and they both have a lot of evidence showing that it reduces muscle soreness. I've done this personally to try it out because I didn't really believe it initially, and it actually does reduce muscle soreness. So you have a big workout you're going to be sore from, I'd recommend wearing some tights either during it or putting them on, say, while you're sleeping afterwards is another good method to do. So my final thoughts on this program: don't worry about the details. If you have to change a day here, or you have a couple days where you couldn't work out, or you can't do this certain movement, don't worry about that. Your body doesn't know that you should have done X movement and instead you did Y. The important thing is that you do the program to the best of your ability and you're as consistent as you can. Consistency is what's going to matter, not having an Olympic caliber program. So as long as you're consistent, as long as you work hard, you will see results. And just be smart about that. If you're having a bad day, or you're feeling off, or you've got a little twinge in your shoulder or your knee or something, you don't need to work out hard on that day or modify the workout so it's easy on there. Just be smart, because you need to accumulate sessions. You don't need to just kill yourself for a day or two, okay? That's really how progress is made. Now get out there and start training. If you like this kind of article, if you like this kind of functional fitness workout, follow the channel, like and subscribe, all that kind of YouTube stuff, and thank you for listening.